Some novels leave an indelible mark, and The Vegetarian by Han Kang is one such story that grabbed global attention and snagged the International Man Booker Prize in 2016. It introduced us to Yeong-hye, a woman who decides to stop eating meat, a choice that spirals into a much bigger challenge against the expectations laid out for her by Korean society. This novel isn't just about Yeong-hye deciding to ditch meat, which is a particularly unusual thing in Korean culture. Her shift to vegetarianism symbolizes rejecting the roles dictated by her family and broader social circles. It's filled with challenges and personal insights into autonomy and identity, making it a goldmine for those interested in feminist literature. Kang structured the novel into 3 parts, with different narrators for each, none of whom are Yeong-hye. The first narrator is the husband, Mr. Chung. He says, "Before my wife turned vegetarian, I'd always thought of her as completely unremarkable in every way." And this opening line depicts Yeong-hye as compliant and nondescript, and her decision to become vegetarian marks the beginning of her rebellion against the expectations placed upon her. Mr. Chung perceives her vegetarianism as an inconvenience and a defiance of his authority. And this reaction reflects his deep-seated belief in traditional gender roles where a wife's primary duty is to her husband's desires. The second part of the story, titled Mongolian Mark, is narrated by Yeong-hye's unnamed brother-in-law. He's a video artist with a unique fascination for bodies adorned with floral paintings. Married to Yeong-hye's sister, In-hye, he harbors a troubling obsession with Yeong-hye. He devises a plan to involve her in one of his art projects to see her naked and satisfy his fixation under the guise of artistic expression. And in stark contrast stands In-hye, Yeong-hye's sister, who provides a different perspective on the forces shaping women's lives. And while In-hye outwardly conforms to these expectations, her internal world is one of turmoil and empathy toward Yeong-hye's plight. In-hye's journey through the novel reflects a gradual realization of her constraints and complicity in the social systems that oppress women. And her role in the story critically reflects women's responses to the same oppressive conditions, suggesting that rebellion can manifest in multiple forms, not all of which are outwardly visible. One of the novel's most harrowing scenes occurs at a family dinner, which escalates into a dramatic confrontation. Here, Yeong-hye is subjected to extreme pressure by her family to conform by eating meat. And this scene is pivotal as it highlights the violence inherent in enforcing conformity. Her father attempts to force-feed her, asserting control over her body and choices. Yeong-hye responds with a suicide attempt, which is a distressing but powerful assertion of autonomy. It's a desperate, almost unthinkable act of self-preservation that starkly illustrates her isolation and the extreme pressures she faces. Kang captures this moment of crisis with intensity. Yeong-hye's thoughts, the feeling that she had never lived in this world, caught her by surprise. It was a colossal, crushing weight. Reveal the depth of her alienation from her family and the world that cannot accept her as she is. And this scene illustrates how oppressive gender norms can drive individuals to extreme actions to claim autonomy over their own lives. Some interpretations of The Vegetarian view the novel as a form of social protest, yet such a limited perspective might miss the broader thematic essence of the book. This narrative isn't just a protest against restrictive norms, but perhaps a deeper questioning of existence itself. The novel's 3 parts show Yeong-hye undergo 3 stages of detachment. Initially rejecting social conventions, then eschewing personal desires, and ultimately severing the fundamental human connections of family and empathy. And by the end, when she declares, "I'm not an animal anymore," it's clear that Yeong-hye's journey transcends specific critiques about gender pressures in Korea or elsewhere. The Vegetarian achieves a disturbing universality, regardless of one's country or gender, embedding itself in the psyche in a way that's difficult to pinpoint or define. And The Vegetarian fits well with other feminist literature. The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman and The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood are among the canon that provides deep insights into women's struggles when confronted with extreme social restrictions. And while distinct in its cultural context and storytelling approach, each story showcases the severe psychological and physical repercussions women endure in their battles against these oppressive structures. Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper portrays the debilitating effects of patriarchal medical practices of the late 19th century. The protagonist, confined and patronized in the guise of treatment for her supposed mental illness, slowly loses her sense of reality, and the wallpaper symbolizes the domestic and social constraints that trap women, causing a slow but inevitable erosion of autonomy and mental stability. This experience is similar to Yeong-hye's in The Vegetarian, where her choice to reject meat symbolizes her struggle against confining social and gender roles, ultimately leading to her psychological breakdown. And Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. It provides a dystopian vision where women's bodies are legislated and controlled to extreme measures, reflecting themes of autonomy and resistance. And Atwood explores the brutal imposition of roles that reduce women to mere functions within society, primarily focusing on reproduction. Like Yeong-hye and the protagonist of The Yellow Wallpaper, Offred, the central character in Atwood's narrative, navigates the treacherous paths of subjugation and moments of subtle defiance against the totalitarian regime. And the story shows the dire consequences when women's choices are stripped away and the need to fight for personal agency. Now, linking these stories highlights the pervasive nature of gender-based oppression and the interplay between social expectations and personal identity. Each protagonist exhibits a form of psychological or physical distress as a direct consequence of the restrictive frameworks imposed upon them. And when I first picked up The Vegetarian, it was nothing like what I expected, and it took time to appreciate it truly. Yeong-hye's struggle made me look harder at the usual gender roles and expectations in society, and this novel also pushed me to think about how powerful literature can be in challenging and reshaping our views and social rules. And ultimately, I gained a deeper understanding of the intersection between gender roles and personal freedom, and I look forward to reading Kang's other works. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe. It's free, but your support helps keep the channel going. And you'll be the first to know when new videos are released. And until next time, this might be a good one to watch next.